What's going on, guys? Hope you are doing well. In this video, we are going to be going over how to set up our Xcode project and covering some of the ins and outs of how Xcode works and how we're going to be building applications with SwiftUI. So to get this started, guys, we are going to create a new Xcode project. So to do that, you're going to open up Xcode and you can either go to File, New, and select New Project right here. Or you could hit Command-Shift-N as the shortcut to do that, and it should open this window up for you. So next up, from this platform list that you see here, we're going to select iOS. We're going to be building iOS apps here, and you're going to select this application format. So hit Next, and this is where we're going to name our project. So I'm going to call this SwiftUI Bootcamp. And for the team, guys, this is not important. It's okay to have none selected if you don't see anything showing up there. Organization identifier, you could sort of map it out like this, com, dot, and then whatever your first and last name are. Also not super important here. And then just make sure the interface selected is SwiftUI. This is very important. We are going to be building apps with SwiftUI, not UIKit and storyboards. And then make sure your language is Swift, and we do not need core data or tests. So let's go ahead and hit Next and hit Create. And this is going to create an Xcode project for us, guys. So you're going to see here that we have some code to start with right off the bat. This is automatically generated anytime we create a new project in SwiftUI. And you guys are going to see this preview on the right side here showing up. And the code that we see over here, guys, is what produces the application that you see on the right-hand side over here. So really quickly, just want to talk a little bit more about that, how SwiftUI works, and everything that's going on in Xcode that you see here. So this left side menu, guys, that you see is what is known as your project directory or your project navigator. So this is where all of the files for our project are going to exist. All the files, all the folders, all that good stuff. So this is how we're going to navigate between files. This you see here that has all of the code. This is known as our editor. So this is where we are going to be typing all of our code that is going to ultimately produce mobile applications. And then the interesting part, like we just talked about over here, is our preview. So the preview is a feature in Xcode that is particularly useful when working with SwiftUI. It allows you to see a live preview of your SwiftUI views while you're writing code. So really quickly, guys, if you were to go and look in the editor and maybe just like delete the world there and make the text just say hello, you guys will notice that that automatically in real time updates the interface of my application in the preview. So the code that we type over here will produce this preview and how it looks over here. And we'll be able to see those updates in real time, which is so cool. So this real-time feedback significantly speeds up the development process and helps you design and test your UI without needing to run your app on a simulator or a physical device. So really quickly, just to actually run this application and see what it looks like on a physical device, we can go up to this menu that you see here. You guys should see a list of devices. Right now, I'm selecting iPhone 14 Pro. You can select 14, 14 Plus, 14 Pro Max, iPhone SE, whatever you want. So I'm selecting 14 Pro. And if you guys go up and hit this play button up here, or just hit Command R, that will actually build and run your project here, guys. And you'll see this build succeeded message. And what that does is it compiles all of this code that we have in our project here and actually launches the application on a physical device. So this is our iPhone simulator, and this represents what the app would look like on a physical device. So if you were to actually run this app on your iPhone. And what's really cool is we could hit like the home button here and we see that this like fully mimics an actual iPhone, right? And then you can see our app down here in the corner. You guys are probably going to show up somewhere different on the screen. And I can click on that and it will actually launch my application. And I have all of like the iPhone functionality here. So this is really cool. And we're going to be using this quite a bit once we start building full-scale mobile applications. But the difference between this and the preview, guys, is that this preview we have here in Xcode simply gives us a preview of the application. So it's really useful for development purposes because we don't actually have to build and run the application on a physical device to test things and check out what our UI looks like or test basic functionality, right? Like, for example, making that simple change here where I just changed the text, I can see this take effect in real time. So when you build the application and launch it on the simulator, guys, it pauses the preview. So to resume that, you just go up here and hit that refresh button. So that looks really, really good, right? And we can see those updates taking place in real time. So that saves us a lot of time and really speeds up the development process. So you guys can imagine if you have a really, really large application with potentially millions of lines of code, something like Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, that building the application takes a lot of time, right? Our app right now is literally like less than 30 lines of code. So it takes almost no time to build. So as things get larger, Xcode takes longer and longer to build those things. And if you want to make really simple changes to a screen, like we just did there, you don't want to have to build and run the application every time you want to see those changes. So that's why the preview is really, really useful for us and really helps speed up the development process here, guys. We can see those changes and updates in real time. So that's just a brief breakdown as to how the preview system works and how SwiftUI works in general with like building applications. And we're going to be diving into the actual modules of this course and how to use SwiftUI to build mobile apps in the next video. But before we finish this one, guys, I just want to talk a little bit about what's going on with all this code here. So I don't want this to look like straight up gibberish to you. I want to break it down very briefly just so we have an idea of what's going on. So we see here that we have this content view, right? And if I go back to my project navigator, this is this content view. So this preview is rendering out this code that we have in our content view, and the root view of our application. So when we launch our application is this content view. And to see that, you guys could go to this app file. So this is like the main file for your app. You see the main keyword here. This indicates that, hey, this is the thing that launches our application, this SwiftUI Bootcamp app file, right? We see that it's an app and we are launching our content view here. So this is the root view of our application, which is why it opens up to this page as soon as we launch our app, right? So we go back to this content view and we see that this is a struct. It's called content view and it is of this view type, right? So this is just saying, hey, this content view is a view. This body is what is going to make up the content of this view. So we have to have this body property. And then inside of that body, we have some code. And this represents like the guts of the actual screen, guys. This is what actually builds out what you see here. Don't really worry too much about what this stuff is. We're going to cover this in a lot more detail and get a ton of practice. But we can see here that we basically just have an image. That's where we get this globe guy. And then we have this text component, which is where we get this guy from. And then we apply some padding and all that stuff. But don't really worry about that. This stuff that you see down here is what renders out this preview, guys. So if I were to go and comment this out, you'll notice that it automatically closes out the preview of my application or in Xcode here. So as soon as I comment this back in, you guys will notice it automatically opens the preview back up for me and it launches that just like that. Really quickly, to manually open and close the canvas that this is called, or the preview, you guys can go up to this button right here, and if you select show editor only, it will remove that. And then if you go right here once again and you select canvas, it will launch the canvas for you. So if you guys are unfamiliar with what like something like a struct is, or casting it as this view type is, I highly recommend stopping everything you're doing right now and taking the Swift fundamentals course. So that is the foundation that we need in order to understand how to build apps with SwiftUI, guys. A lot of people like to jump straight into the app development stuff because that's what's the fun stuff, and you get to see things come to life right before your eyes. But you really need a strong basis in the fundamentals of programming before you get started here. You can start this course, but you are eventually going to have to go back and do the fundamentals anyway. So I highly recommend just doing that now if you haven't done that already. This is supposed to be part 2 of the overall iOS Developer Bootcamp series. So you need the fundamentals first before you can start learning how to build apps. And all of this stuff is broken down, like what a struct is and how to cast things and all of that stuff, guys. So make sure you take that before you take this course. But anyway, now that we have gone through an overview of how all of this stuff works, some SwiftUI stuff, some Xcode stuff and all that, we're going to hop into module 1, where we are going to be going over how to add text to our application and covering all of these modifiers that we see here, which help us with styling our views. And I'm going to break that down in detail, guys. So get excited for that. We'll see you in module 1. Thanks for watching this one. Peace out.